We're here back at the fantasy bar for week 3 of the NFL on FanDuel and DraftKings. 6 of my favorite plays, including a quarterback I think is in a great spot that nobody's going to want to play, a wide receiver returning from injury, a couple running backs I think are in smash spots here tonight, a tight end that we've left dead and buried, and of course, my favorite play of the week. Who are we talking about? Belly up to the fantasy bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Week 3 edition Beers Daily Fantasy 6-pack. Hope everybody out there is doing great over the first couple weeks of the season. 6 guys fresh off the tap for you here on FanDuel and DraftKings. Thank you for hanging out in the fantasy bar. Before we get into the plays, as always, if you enjoy the video, if you're just here to troll, whatever the reason you're here, do me a favor, click that thumbs up button. That's the tip jar here on this free video in the fantasy bar. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Got multiple videos each and every week. NFL 6-pack, still cranking out baseball 6-packs, and of course, pints and picks with my favorite 2 NFL bets each and every week. Subscribe, don't miss any of the videos. And lastly, before we get into the plays, head over to scoresandodds.com/beer. This new parlay IQ tool, I've been talking about it, a ton of fun. Really, it shows you the best way to correlate your same game parlays, other parlays, just show you different props, totals, spreads. It's an amazing tool, first of its kind in the industry. That link right below me in the description when you are done here. Go check out scoresandodds.com/beer. All right, let's get into it. Fun slate of games. We get all the big quarterbacks back here. Some high total games. Should be an awesome Week 3 slate. All right, let's start at the running back position with Miles Sanders of Philadelphia. I think we get some solid leverage here. Now, make no mistake, Jalen Hurts, one of the top, if not the top play at the quarterback position, will likely be the most popular quarterback. The ownership shouldn't get out of control. I will certainly have some Jalen Hurts lineups this week with the way this guy is playing at such an MVP level. But let's not forget about Miles Sanders and how good this guy has been. I get all the question marks. You're already saying, what about all the other running backs? What about Jalen Hurts running? There's certainly concerns, but that is baked into the price here. What if he busts through that ceiling? Let's think on the optimistic side of things. What if he gets it going, gets those touchdowns going? This guy is averaging almost 6 yards per carry over the first couple weeks of the season. Philadelphia big favorites in this game. We think they're playing from ahead. That could lead to even more opportunities here for Miles Sanders. And Washington been terrible against the run. 3rd most fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs this season. So a lot of great ways to go with Philadelphia here. I think Sanders provides you that solid leverage in your GPP builds. All right, I promise you a quarterback I think it's going to be completely off the radar. That's Joe Burrow of the Bengals. Now, I get it. We got Josh Allen in a smash spot in Miami. We got Patrick Mahomes, who I really love, against the Colts. We got a lot of good quarterback options. Jalen Hurts, who we just talked about. But this could be a spot where the Cincinnati offense gets it going. I find it very hard to believe that this team is going to go 0-3 here against this awful Jets team and this horrific Jets defense here. So love Burrow here in the spot. Easy pairing partners. Another thing you really love. You know it's Chase, you know it's Higgins. Once in a while, it's going to be a guy like Tyler Boyd. But the double stack certainly in play here. Easy to run it back on the other side with a cheap option as well, whether it's Garrett Wilson getting a ton of targets, Elijah Moore, who I expect to bounce back sooner rather than later. Plus, Burrow is adding rushing yards, 73 rushing yards over the first couple weeks of the season. So we're getting that added benefit, not just a pocket passer, and maybe that has to do with this horrific Cincinnati offensive line, having to scramble, but the Jets bad on defense, 4th most fantasy points allowed last season. We're going to see a similar output from them this season. Love the Bengals to break out of their funk in the spot this week in New York against the Jets. All right, to the wide receiver position, a guy I'm expecting back in the lineup. That's Michael Pittman Jr. of the Colts. Now, man, what an impactful first week and then gets injured and misses week 2. And you saw what this offense looks like without Michael Pittman in there. I know it's a 1-week sample, but I'm expecting him back in that lineup. Limited practices here each of the last couple days here, and a huge game with Kansas City. Another game I think could go under the radar, a game that I think could potentially shoot out. Ton of different ways to stack this game, and big underdogs here are the Colts at home. What does that mean? Likely throwing a ton. You know, maybe it is a game where they're in it, they're controlling it. Jonathan Taylor going to get a ton of work. Either way, Michael Pittman, even in that scenario, is going to be targeted a ton. If they're playing from behind, he could see 10, 12 targets in this game. Now, the Chiefs, 11th most fantasy points to the wide receiver last year, bottom 10 so far this season. Potential shootout here the guy people may hesitate on coming back off the injury. Not me, Michael Pittman in a smash spot against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we mentioned that game being stackable. Let's go to the other side of that one with JUJU Smith-Schuster. So again, a million ways you could go here with Patrick Mahomes. Love Travis Kelce in this spot. These Kansas City wide receivers are cheap. You run it back with a Pittman. You run it back with a Jonathan Taylor. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get creative. And this is a game I'm going to make a ton of different lineups from. But even if you don't stack this game, JUJU still looks a bit too cheap for me, especially on DraftKings at 5,500. I know we saw the good and the bad so far from JUJU, but this is a great matchup here. Colts, bottom half of the league in fantasy points last season, third most touchdowns allowed to this position here as well. And once again, I think Buffalo going to be a team a lot of people go to. Other games with higher totals, don't make that mistake. Stack this thing up. JUJU bounces back this week big time against this Indianapolis secondary. All right, moving on to the tight end position. A guy we have buried. He's dead. He's gone. Not my eyes. I'm going back to the well on Kyle Pitts of the Falcons. Now, I get it. Some of you are going to shut off the video. He's been awful. He's not getting targeted. He was overdrafted, yada, yada, yada. Hey, if you don't want to play him, this is my opinion. Don't have to play him. But talk about a ceiling, and I know we haven't seen it this season, but there is ceiling with Kyle Pitts. We saw it many a times last season, even without the touchdowns, and we're going to get very minimal ownership here. You compare the pricing to a guy like Travis Kelce, $3,100 more expensive. Mark Andrews, over $2,000 more expensive. I get it. Those guys have been great. They're both in good spots here this week, but Kyle Pitts is about the only tight end that has the potential ceiling to compete with those guys. And this is a matchup that could unlock it. Two tough matchups to open the season. Seattle, 8th most fantasy points allowed to the tight end position in 2021. 4th most touchdowns allowed to this position. The prices are falling. The ownership going to be under 5%. Big time upside here for Kyle Pitts against the Seattle Seahawks. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for week 3. Before we do that, want to run it back on our Beast of the Week contest. Congrats to last week's winner. All you got to do, get in the comment section right below the video and guess fantasy points on DraftKings this week. For my Beast of the Week, the closest guess going to win themselves a free week of RotoGrinders Premium, a chance to check everything out behind the scenes, absolutely free. And while you're down there, who is your favorite play of the week? I want to know your Beast of the Week. If you were 10 in that fantasy bar, you guys love to have comments. Let's hear it. Who's your favorite play on this week 3 slate? All right, let's get to it. My favorite play for week 3, you know, Matt's the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. We owe you one more running back. We're rolling with Dalvin Cook of the Vikings, this week's Beast of the Week. This is another game I absolutely love. A lot of ways you can go here, whether it's Dalvin Cook. I love this Minnesota passing game here as well. Multiple options on the Detroit side to run it back with St. Brown and DeAndre Swift, but a big bounce back spot here, not only for Cook, but for this Vikings offense. Game got away from them in Philadelphia, so Cook specifically kind of got scripted out of that game. But Minnesota coming back home, mega high total here, the highest total on this slate, and a big home favorite. So really checking all of our boxes we are looking for when paying up for a stud running back here. And the matchup does not get much better than the Detroit Lions. 2nd most fantasy points allowed last season. Guess what? They're right there again this season through 2 weeks. 2nd most fantasy points allowed once again. Potential shootout here. Awful defense. Dalvin Cook bounces back in a big way here. Easily my favorite play on the board and this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that'll do it here for week 3 in the fantasy bar. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, hit me up in that comment section right below the video. Don't forget, fantasy points for Dalvin Cook on DraftKings. Closest guess wins a free week of RotoGrinders Premium. And go check out scoresandodds.com/beer. That Parlay IQ tool, premium picks to make your life easy. Comparing odds, trends, analytics, so much to check out. That link in the description. Go and check it out today for RotoGrinders.com. I am Beer saying salut, guys. Best of luck here in week 3. Keep an eye out for my Pints and Picks sports betting video, baseball video coming on Friday as well. Good luck this week, and we'll see you.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.